What up, everybody? It is the Graham Boys back once again with Shoot Style Sessions here on the Ethos Media Network. And we're heading into WrestleMania season. We're heading into the Owen Hart Cup season. There's a lot going on. What are you excited about, Eric?
Yes, sir. Welcome back, everybody. Shout out to our boy Steve. He will be back eventually, promise y'all. As far as what I'm really excited for, I'm really excited for the matches so far that have been announced for WrestleMania.
For what? For WrestleMania? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for Roman, Punk, and Seth, especially after SmackDown this week. I'm still really, I know some people are kind of half and half on it, but I'm still really into what Cena and Cody are doing right now. So I'm still really looking forward to that as well. And then honestly, for me, I think the story that is intriguing me the most for WrestleMania season is Bianca, Naomi, Jade, and kind of intermixed with that is Rhea and Io. So, like, I kind of like that whole dynamic that's going on right now because that story feels like there's just so many layers to it and it can go in many different directions. I know we're going to probably dive into it a little bit more, but I absolutely loved Naomi's promo this week on SmackDown. I just didn't realize that she had that, like, amount of, like, you know, conviction in her heel character as much as she did, and that just really stood out to me. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of those stories kind of intertwine with each other, because I feel like because Bianca is in the triple threat, I feel like that still might like intertwine with the other story. It all depends on how it plays out, but I'm just in general, I'm just really excited about how the women are being booked on Raw and SmackDown at the moment, as far as the top females go.
Yeah. I'm curious to see where how they loop The Rock back into the Cena Cody story. I'm curious to see who wins at WrestleMania really between Io, Rhea, and Bianca, just because it's like, I don't know. That one's the hardest to call for me because they got the streak situation with Bianca going. You know, she hasn't lost her WrestleMania yet, so that's something to consider. Rhea has never beaten Io in a one-on-one situation, so that's something to consider. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how to call that one.
Yeah,
that one
Io lost her belt last year at Mania to Bayley.
To Bayley, yeah. What's Bianca and Io situation as far as their match record situation? They haven't really brought that up for real.
You know, to my knowledge, I think Bianca has gotten the better of Io more times than not, because I don't know if they've had multiple, like a series of singles matches, but the one that sticks out in my mind is the Backlash from, I want to say, like 2 years ago, when Bianca was champion and was facing Io, and Io was like super over in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, though, like if you put a gun to my head and make me pick, I think I'm going Io, actually. Because the reason why I say this is because the story that they're telling is, even though she's the champion, she's still being looked at as the underdog. Now, normally that doesn't work because it makes the champion look weak. Yeah. But if she can beat basically the two most dominant women on the roster, Bianca and Rhea, in a triple threat match, that solidifies her spot as champion, like as somebody who's, you know, worthy of being in the main event and stuff. And then also it concludes the story of Bianca and Rio were so focused on each other the whole time that they didn't pay attention to the one person they should have been paying attention to more than anybody else, which is the actual champion. So actually, now that I'm thinking about it and knowing the way Triple H tells stories, I think I just convinced myself. I think EO is going to retain at Mania.
Yeah,
We're filming this on March 30th, just so that I can put a date on it. We're filming this on March 30th, 2025. So that's my prediction as of today.
The only reason I don't want to make a prediction yet is because of the match that they're having tomorrow. On Raw between I think it's Rhea and Io, and then Bianca's the special guest referee. Like, I think the triple threat is still gonna be booked somehow at the end of that, depending on how that goes. But I am interested to see how they actually tell that story and get there. I think after tomorrow, I'll kind of have a better idea of who I think is going to win that. But I do agree that is probably the hardest one to call. Between Punk, Seth, and Roman, my winner is Punk right now.
Punk. Yeah, same.
Especially now after the revelation on SmackDown that him getting into the main event on night one, presumably, because I'm assuming night two is going to be Cena and Cody.
Right.
To know that that's not the favor is the most intriguing part. And I don't want to say it leads credence into the fact that Punk could get into night two of the main event. I don't want to just come out and say that yet. But what I will say is the favor now feels like the stakes are a lot higher now, because we know that we all kind of assumed that the favor was going to be him getting the main event spot at Mania. Now that we know that it's not that, it does feel like the stakes have been raised up a lot higher. It's just going to be interesting to see where they go and exactly what this favor really is.
Yeah, because I'm still going to stand on, I don't think it has anything to do with main event night two, because, again, there's just no logic to that. Like, how does Paul Heyman, y'all can revisit the last episode, but that's going to be my question forever, is how does Paul Heyman have the authority to get Punk in a match with Cody and Cena when Heyman has nothing to do with any of them? Yeah, that would be my only question. If they can make that make sense, then sure. But so also on the card we have Gunther and Jay, and it seems like the internet is not excited about that anymore. Just because they've been doing the same thing every week, essentially. It's just Gunther sneak attacking Jay doubting himself, and that's it. It's been rinse and repeat every week.
Yeah, and I think even though they kind of realized that they had to switch it up a little bit with the botch that happened, like they kind of incorporated that into the story, which was a smart idea, to actually do that, because you do want to kind of highlight the things that everybody is saying, so that you're not playing dumb towards your audience. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you do want to acknowledge those things, but I do agree that it has been too much of a rinse and repeat throughout the build to this. Like, there hasn't really been anything too different. I don't know if that means that lessens my chances of thinking Jay is going to win or not, because I still think that Jay is going to win. Yeah. But I do think that they might course correct a little bit afterwards if it doesn't go over as well as they think it's going to. I think in the building on the night of, if the match is really good, then it's not going to really matter. And it's a Gunther match, so the match is going to be good to great at least. It's not like it's going to be a bad match. So I just think
I don't think it's a problem with Jay necessarily. I think it's a problem with the feud and the way that the feud is being booked. I don't think people, because Jay still loved, people still love Jay Uso. People still love Gunther. You know what I'm saying? Like, they love him as a heel, and they love, the dominance in his matches and all of that stuff. But just their program together isn't clicking, because of the way it's being booked. But I don't think it's a Jay issue. So I do agree with you that I still think he's going to win at Mania. And I don't necessarily think they're going to do any course correcting, because I think the crowd is going to be with him, and I think when he comes out and he's, throwing his hands in the air like he just don't care, you know what I'm saying? and he has the gold with him and he's doing it and all that stuff, I think when they go city to city on all those Monday Night Raws, he's going to still be just as over. So,
yeah,
I don't see them changing the plan. I just think people don't like the feud itself. Like,
yeah, I mean, part of the other problem is that we've seen it too many times recently, is what I'll say. Between Gunther and Jay, like we've seen it too much too recently. I think if they would have fought, if the Saturday night main event match never happens, I think we look at this feud totally different. But I think because they had like just fought a few weeks before Rumble happened, and then Jay won, and then we kind of knew that was the direction that they were going. It kind of was like, we're already back to this already. Whereas like every other feud, for the most part, still feels pretty fresh, even though some of these people have been intermixing with each other for a while. Like, but a lot of them just haven't had matches. Whereas Jay and Gunther have had like this will be match number 4, I think, between them. So
yeah,
and
I don't mind that necessarily. It's more like just throw in some other stuff, like do some video vignettes where Gunther's just talking shit. Do some video vignettes where Jay is just talking shit and just have those in the show. Like, you don't necessarily have to have them interact every week. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, Roman's feuds last as long as they do because he's not on TV every week. So a lot of the legwork is carried by Paul Heyman or by whoever his opponent is. You know what I mean? So when they interact, whenever it's Roman and Punk interacting or Roman and Seth or whoever, it means more, and it's easier to move the story to the next chapter because you don't have to have them interacting every single week. You know what I'm saying? Or even like going back to like Attitude Era days where they were interacting every single week, everything was still built on factions. So it was like, even he was never in a faction, but it was always him versus an entire faction. You know what I'm saying? It would be like him versus the corporation. Okay, well, you can spread that out over 8 weeks. You can have him fight Shamrock 1 week, Boss Man 1 week, Taker 1 week, Triple H 1 week. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can spread that whole shit out until you get to the last match, which is him versus Vince McMahon. So, but because everything isn't really built on big factions now, like the biggest faction, I think, is what? Legado del Fantasma? Or no, not even anymore because Elektra Lopez is gone. So, Judgment Day.
No, Judgment Day. Yeah.
Faction. You know what I'm saying? And there's what, 5 of them? Liv, Dom, Finn, Carlito,
Raquel, JD. So there's 6.
And JD. So 6, yeah. That's the biggest faction. The corporation had like 12 people in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, now there was managers and all of that stuff, mixed in too. So not all of them were active wrestlers, but still that's the story stuff that you can, use those people for. So I think they have the right idea as far as how they're booking the stories and how they're, connecting the dots from week to week. But because they're doing it in a way to where they have to have the 2 main people in the feud interact every week, that's where it gets dry faster.
Yeah.
Whereas like, for example, like on the AEW side, with Mox and Cope, the reason why that worked is because all the Death Riders had to face Cope before he got to Mox. You know what I'm saying? And then eventually he had to like get some help and like, yo, FTR, y'all got my hey, Willow, I need you to, you know what I'm saying? Like, there was stuff that had to happen before he got to Mox. It wasn't just him and Mox fighting every week.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So, but yeah, man, WrestleMania is shaping up to be, a pretty good card, I think. I think we just, like I said, I think the fans kind of got spoiled for the last probably 3 WrestleManias in a row to where now this one is, for the lack of a better term, a more regular WrestleMania. So it feels like it's not as big of a deal, but it's like, no, this is still about to be fire. Cause 39 Stone Cold came back. 40 was the first Cody Roman shit. 41, The Rock came back, and then Cody finally beats Roman. So there's all this epic shit going on. You know what I mean?
I think this is about to be 41.
Cena. So, okay. So 30. Yeah. Okay. So 39, 40. So maybe 38 then. 38, 39, 40. Okay. So 38, 39, 40, 3 like bangers in a row. So it's like, okay. Now, but again, that's part of the celebrity aspect of like having Stone Cold come back and having The Rock come back. So now that we're I mean, but this year Cena's back, so I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what the fans want. I don't know.
Yeah, I think part of it is definitely IWC just overreacting to everything. Like, I think that's part of it, just because they want everything like just like thrown at them like a million miles an hour, and it's like it doesn't work like that all the time. Like, and then the other part that like makes me laugh about a lot of that shit too is that you guys aren't used to Triple H's style of booking yet. Like, you guys haven't noticed that he likes to pace a lot of this shit out. Like,
he's a slow burner.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand why all of a sudden you guys are acting like brand new. Like, this is like a whole new style of booking. Like, no, we've seen this put in action for the past 3 years now, and it's been working. So it's like,
the only thing that Triple H puts in the microwave is the WWE Tag Team Championship. That's it. Everything else is in the oven.
Yeah.
Everything else is cooked in the oven. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when you cook a meal in the oven, that shit might take all day. Yep. You know what I'm saying? But when you pull it out at the end, it'd be worth it. You know what I'm saying? All the juices and the marinades and all of that shit is soaked in there good. So like you're gonna have that extra hearty meal, you know what I mean? Like, and it's gonna be worth it after that wait, you know, versus you throw something in the microwave, you know, yeah, it'll give you that quick sensation real quick. You'll feel better in the moment, but you're gonna be hungry again in 20-30 minutes, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, Triple H is an oven guy. So
yeah.
Let's move over to AEW though, man. We got the Owen Hart Cup coming up. So the announcements for that, for the men's side and the women's side. For the men's side so far, we have Hangman Adam Page, who has announced his entry. We have Jay White, who's announced his entry. We have Will Ospreay, who's announced his entry. And on the women's side, we have Chris Statlander, Thunder Rosa, Athena, Billy Starks, and Mercedes Moné. So the women's side is built up a little bit more, but they're adding a lot of star power to both tournaments. So this seems like it's going to be great. I'm very excited for the Owen this year, because no matter who wins no matter who wins the men's Owen, based on the names that they've included so far, it's like it's going to be a good match against, you know, whoever the world champion is at All In, no matter what, which I assume will probably still be Mox. So
I think on the women's side, so far, it's being built up incredibly strong, because you have a few different factors on that side, where you have somebody like Chris, who I believe has almost gone all the way a few times and has lost in like semifinal matches or whatever. So like you have somebody like her who hasn't been in the finals yet. You have big belt collector Mercedes Moné on one side. You have Athena on the other side, who is at this point pretty much unbeatable from what we've seen. So there's a lot of interesting plays into where that can possibly go. Especially with Toni Storm still being champion, because with you saying Mox will still be the champ on the men's side, I 100% think that Toni will still be the champ on the women's side, and to see how they line that up.
I don't know. The only reason I say I don't know is because they are pushing Megan Bayne hard. Like, we was all discussing that, and Megan Bayne is almost getting a Brock Lesnar push. So it's like, if they continue on that streak, Megan might fuck around and beat Toni. Like, they might do it. Like,
I can see it happening, but I don't see it happening anytime before the Owen Hart Cup is done.
Well, they fight at Dynasty, which is next Sunday.
No way they do a title change that quick with Toni Storm.
I doubt it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'll put it that way. Like, if you make me put money on it, I would put money on Toni Storm retaining, but I wouldn't put a lot of money on it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it seems like outside of a few people who come into the company with like not a lot of star power or anything like that, because that's the wrong word to use here, but a lot of just push behind you, I guess is the right word to say. With a lot of push behind you, it seems like a lot of them do, and they win a lot of matches, but then when it comes to like the big pay-per-view ones, it seems like they lose pretty quickly. Outside of maybe a few people like Bobby Lashley, I'm trying to think, like Bryan Danielson.
Even him, it took him a long time before he wore gold. He was just having matches for the longest.
I'm just talking. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, I just think with a lot of the debuts, I think it does take them a long time for them to get gold. Like Adam Cole, for example, that's another one. He's just now, I think, about to win the TNT title at Dynasty.
Yeah, I agree.
He's been in the company for he's been in the company for a while. So I think.
But with Adam Cole, you got to remember too, though, a lot of his time was on the shelf, though, because he was injured for a lot of his AEW contract so far. So we do have to keep that in mind. But I take your point.
Yeah, but we will see. We will see. I would be shocked if they did pull that move, but I don't think I would be too mad just because of how strongly she's being booked.
Yeah. Plus, I wouldn't be surprised, only because Tony is a 3-time champion at this point. So if they were to do a quick title change, now would be okay of a time to do it, because they've concluded the Mariah story. That was the main reason that she needed to win the belt back off of Mariah. That story's done.
Yeah.
So, or at least, that chapter of that story's done. That might be a forever feud, but that's done for now. So if Tony loses the belt, especially to somebody like Megan Bayne, who's super over with the crowd quickly, you know what I mean? Like has a presence outside of wrestling, you know what I'm saying? Like on social media and, all that kind of stuff. Like she's very popular. So it's like, okay, if they put the belt on her, that would make sense to do that right now. Because it's been a while since they've had like a dominant heel champion also. Like Mariah May wasn't necessarily dominant. You know what I'm saying? Like she was having good matches with everybody and she was just winning. Whereas Megan Bayne is like dominant. You know what I'm saying? She's coming out there and marking fools. So it's like, she kind of, that's why her and Stat is such a good rivalry, because it's like they're the two statue women, basically. Like if you wanted to create a perfect woman's professional wrestler, you would either create Chris Statlander or Megan Bayne. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like on the AEW side for sure. Like it would be one of them two. If you sculpted one out of marble yourself, it would be, that's what they would look like. So, but yeah, I'm definitely excited to see, who wins the Owen. Because on the women's side, man, like you said, Athena's in there. They're gonna probably do Athena versus Mercedes at some point. So that means one of them has to take their first L, or maybe not, because you can have draws in the turn. Or no.
No, not in the tournament.
That's the Continental Classic I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
The Owen, it's win or lose, because that's bracket style. It's just a straight up bracket style tournament. So yeah, you're right. I think if they were to get a draw, they would both be eliminated. Actually, I think that's how that would work, which they still might do just for the sake of story, because they maybe don't want to have either of them actually win the full thing, but they don't want to have them lose. So they might do something like that, actually, because AEW does that very rarely, where they have like dusty finishes. When they do it, it makes sense. So I could actually see them doing it then.
I actually think the opposite. I think because it's in the Owen Hart tournament and neither Athena's or Mercedes' belts will be on the line, I think you can have them lose one of them, and then it'll be on the record still that one of them lost, but they're not losing.
That's the issue, though. Right, but I think that's the problem, is because not only are they both champions who have held on to their belts for a long time, but they're also both undefeated. So by virtue of having one of them lose to the other, it automatically is going to not necessarily drop stock, but you have to be very careful about how you book that if you're going to do it.
I also think AEW in general, because they do book draws, they need to be careful about when they space them out. And here's why I say this. We just had a draw between Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia to get to the match that we're going to have at Dynasty. So If they do have a draw, that's fine. They can do that, but I wouldn't have anybody else do a draw in between now and then. Unless the story calls for it and it's really going to make sense. To me, that would be the one where I would push the draw button and be like, all right, let's do it now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, because AEW, for the most part, is not scared of having people win and lose.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they rarely do dusty finishes. That's way more of a WWE thing where they're like, okay, we're going to do a DQ at the end of 3 out of the 7 matches on the show because we don't want these people to lose. You know what I mean? Like, whereas AEW, they'll pull the trigger on people. They'll have a surprise victory or a predictable victory with a good match, you know, stuff like that. But that's why I say if they do it, I think it would make sense because they don't do it very often. Like like you named, you know, the Adam Cole Daniel Garcia one that just happened. When's the last one that you can think of?
The last draw?
Yeah.
It was sometime last year.
Last year.
I don't know.
You know?
I don't know what match it was, but if I had to guess on who it would have been, it would just off the top of my head, I'm thinking it has to be a Will Ospreay match.
Yeah, I think Ospreay did go. I think he did do a draw with somebody, but yeah, that's my point though.
And
you know what I'm saying?
They don't
do it a lot,
or somebody like that. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Yeah. But that's kind of my point though. Is they don't do it very often. So even if they were to do one with Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia, and then later in the tournament, which the tournament doesn't start until after Dynasty, right? Or does it start this week?
No,
they haven't even announced all the brackets. So
yeah.
So that's already, we're starting 2 weeks out from when the last one happened, because I'm assuming they're not going to do one this week probably for no reason. And then so that would happen later in the tournament. So we're looking at probably like a month or 2 out before we see that draw if it happens. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, I'm excited, man. Things are looking good right now. And in the world of pro wrestling, it's an exciting season. It's all, springtime, March, April, it's always going down, so, but yeah, on that note, we will be back with the Ring and the Raps. We got a special one for you all today.
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This portion of the show, the Ring and the Raps. I want to highlight an art form that, within the hip hop world is very important, obviously. And, with the Kendrick Drake thing last year going into this year, I think it kind of re-energized in the mainstream discourse as far as hip hop is concerned, and that's battle rap. So obviously battling has always been a part of the culture. It's very similar to wrestling in a lot of ways, just in itself. Because they'll set up a match between, 2 guys or 2 ladies. They'll do months of promo. They'll be essentially cutting WWE style or AEW style promos on each other, like on Instagram or, at the press conferences and stuff like that. And then you'll have like Smack in the middle acting like Tony Khan or Triple H, like, whoa, wait, we got to wait until the actual match, and even with kayfabe, I would even say it's very similar, because these people are they're selling you a persona, and I'm talking about battle rappers, and they're selling you a persona, and you have to buy into the persona. So there's a certain degree of them having to maintain that character even in non-battle rap situations in order for you to think they're real or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing with wrestling, you know what I mean? Like, not so much nowadays, but traditionally speaking, wrestlers would act the character out in public as well, to maintain, the illusion essentially, or to maintain the kayfabe. So there's a lot of similarities between battle rap and wrestling, even down to, hey, you can say whatever you want, but just don't say anything about my kid. There's predetermined agreements that they make, just like in wrestling, where it's like, hey, my neck's kind of messed up, so can you not do moves that are going to bother my neck? You know what I mean? Like, there's certain levels of discussion and agreement that happen beforehand. So battle rap and wrestling are very, very similar in a lot of ways. But I want to highlight one of me and Eric's favorite battle rappers today, straight out of Maryland, repping that cave gang, repping that gun titles. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I will say it on his behalf because he would say it if he was here, but free to wave, free to surf. But we are here to talk about the homie Tay-Rock today. Yes. Now, Tay-Rock actually also has a wrestling podcast. Him and his girlfriend or fiance or wife. I'm not sure the relationship, but I know that they're together. They're a couple. So shout out to them. Her name is Caution. And they do a wrestling podcast. You know, if you follow Tay-Rock on Instagram or, you know, on his socials, he's always at the events. I've seen him in DNA front row at Monday Night Raw before. I know he was at WrestleMania, you know, when Cody fought Roman and all of that stuff. So Tay-Rock, he's one of those guys that's like a true fan.
Right.
Eric, what are your thoughts on Tay-Rock before we get into this clip? Because I know you love this guy.
Yeah, man. He's one of the few battle rappers that I still keep up with to this day, just because he's one of the few that it feels like he kind of found a lane in it with himself. In he is really good at battle rapping, but he also has like this side hustle with with his love for wrestling. And I think that a lot of the really great battle rappers have kind of found a way to use the battle rap lane to kind of shoot themselves off into another career projection area. And for him, it feels like that's where he's going. As far as the actual rapping goes, I think he's a very simple rapper in how he constructs a lot of his bars, but what he actually says is the shit that I really appreciate. Like, you can have a rapper like a battle rapper like a Loaded Lux who is gonna lyrical miracle you to death, but Tay-Rock is gonna say his shit in a lot more simple form, but it's still gonna hit just as hard as a intricate Loaded Lux bar. So that's the reason why I really like him. Like, he's found a lane to really hone in on that. I think a lot of other battle rappers kind of try to follow the Loaded Lux path of trying to be a little more creative with how they like lay out their raps and everything, whereas Tay-Rock just keeps it simple all the time, and that's what I really appreciate about him.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say simple, but I understand exactly what you're saying, though. So
simple might be the wrong word.
Yeah, not necessarily simple, because he's one of the best like multi-syllable rhymers in battle rap. Like, you know what I mean? Like in rap, period, maybe. Like, he is nice when it comes to those, like, you know, I call it the Benny flow. You know, those Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine type of flows where it's like he's gonna rap 3 syllables and make those 3 syllables rhyme as much as possible. Like, and in as many pockets as he can find that 3-syllable rhyme pattern to fit. You know what I mean? Like, so he's great at that kind of stuff. And they'll see what we're talking about here. We're gonna react to his round 3 versus Bigg K. And he does an incredible scheme here. I'm gonna start and stop it. You know, so me and Eric can react to it here, but this is obviously, as a wrestling fan and as a battle rap fan, this is one of my favorite verses probably of all time. So let's get into it.
That's something I've been showing proudly. You would know your role and shut your mouth if you know about me. Leave this man killed, Roddy Piper. He knows I'm rowdy. At his funeral, I will smack his aunt and tell his uncle howdy. This guy's a bitch.
Okay, let's stop.
It sounds like there's a lot there already.
All right, so I'll tell him no his role, shut his mouth out, and that's that's extremely straightforward.
Yeah, we know who he's talking about there.
Right. But then he says, I'll get this man killed. So that's a Roddy Piper, because he's a man who used to wear a kilt to the ring, and obviously play on words, kilt, killed. I'll smack his auntie and tell his uncle howdy. I mean, when he said that one, I was like, oh, okay, wait a minute here.
Like, yeah, because that one kinda... it's obvious, but it's not obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck his dying wish. We could have did this massacre 1. I'm wondering why it's 6.
So that's what we call wordplay, ladies and gentlemen. We could have did this at so just background. The event that they're rapping at is called Massacre 6. So Tay-Rock is telling Bigg K, we could have did this at Massacre 1. I'm wondering why it's 6. but again, the Wyatt Six wrestling group. So pay attention like that. This is for all of my people who don't traditionally watch battle rap or don't know what they're listening for. That's what you're listening for. You're listening for him saying what he's saying to Big K, but very slyly and subtly throwing in these wrestling references in a way that makes it make sense.
Yep.
I said, Uncle Howdy, Wyatt 6, and no one get it until I send your grandmother to Bray Wyatt and leave her rocking chair with no one in it. Squeeze a 50 till I see it's empty. His mother clapped. That's one in mommy's back like Rhea Ripley. He don't get me. The knife I turned the dog into a screaming puppy. That's Jerry the King when he see a titty.
What did Jerry Lawler do every time he saw a titty? He would scream puppies. Yeah. So this is so clever, man. Like this is I love schemes. I love people who scheme. Like it's shout out Chilla Jones because he really made it a big thing as part of his style, when he came in the game in like 2012 or whenever it was when he first started showing up on URL. And I fell in love with that style, like, because it's not easy to do.
Yeah, and for all the people out there who don't know what a scheme is as far as in rounds, that's when you're basically just touching on one subject, but that whole subject is gonna revert around the entire round, and you can kind of say different things to kind of move around it and bring up other things, but you're always going to circle back to that main topic. It's going to continue to revolve itself throughout the entire round.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was explaining earlier, basically he's going to throw in these subtle wrestling references throughout the entire round. The minute and 30 seconds that we're going to be watching. But if you're not paying attention for the wrestling references, it just sounds like regular rapping. That's why it's so good.
Who the flying fuck said bro is a soldier? I am Jake the Snake. I go in my bag in this show with a cobra. No arms.
A cobra obviously being a nickname for the type of gun that he's pulling out. So Jake the Snake, go in the bag, pull out a cobra.
One giant strap over the shoulder.
Andre the Giant, one giant strap over the shoulder. Here, I'll rewind it back a little bit.
The stick out like a sore thumb. That's Solo Sokoa. You know it ain't over. This RBE dude is not a threat. Your league owner been losing my respect. You'll be a pallbearer for ARP. I'm going to do something foolish I regret. They going to find Big Boss Man with a noose around his neck.
So ARP is the guy who throws these battles. Big K is essentially, I don't know if he's signed to Rare Breed Entertainment, but that's where most of his battles take place. So again, his name is Big K. So Tay-Rock says, I'm going to hang Big Boss Man. Again, Big Boss Man got hanged by The Undertaker, and he threw in the Paul Bearer line before that. So that's what connects all of that together. So it's not just wrestling references for the sake of using them. Like, they actually make sense, and there's a connection with what he's saying. That's why, again, that's where the skill comes in, and that's why I respect this so much.
And the other great thing about it too, just to kind of build off what you're saying, he not only is he doing that, but he's bringing up wrestlers and people from different eras to help fit into the topic of what he's talking about. So it's not just regular wrestling references for the sake of wrestling references. It's people who are new and old who make sense in the theme of what he's saying.
And not only that, but it's kind of like what you were saying as far as bringing generations together on the bar exam episode that dropped on Monday. Yeah. When you were saying that like with remixes, basically how like if somebody new remixes a song, that might make you go back and listen to the old one and you didn't even realize, like, oh snap, like this is from that. Like, so it's kind of the same thing that Tay-Rock is doing. He's bringing up Jake the Snake, Undertaker, people like that. So people who grew up, in the 80s and 90s watching wrestling, they're going to have those names that they can latch on to, even like The Rock and people like that.
Right, but then he brings up Solo Sokoa and Rhea Ripley, who are two newer acts.
Bray Wyatt. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like yeah, exactly. So that's for, the Ruthless Aggression era kids, who grew up in that era. And John Cena was their version of like what The Rock and Stone Cold were for me and what Hogan was in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just violent, the text silent. It'll shoot through a vest, break up a shield. Seth Rollins, wave a Glock, bang a pop. As far as working, your legs are stopped. Shamrock, King, your ankle lock. You play with rock, you gonna die as soon as you try to. Champion of the year, now your time through. This is my first time rapping on King of the Dot too. And my debut consists of me taking a Cody out. I am Jacob 5'2".
So that line, just to make that make sense, because that one might be a little bit more confusing. Champion of the year, if you break down that that acronym COTY, they'll call it the Cody. So again, that's one of those wordplay things, Cody, and Cody. So he's basically saying on his RBE debut, because that was his first time battling on that league, because he normally does everything on URL, which is another league. You know, for wrestling fans, think of it as WWE and AEW. RBE is AEW, URL is WWE. So
yeah, they're just
it would
different
be
promotions.
like, yeah, it would almost essentially be like if Seth Rollins went and had a match on AEW. That's basically what this was. So, so he says, I took out a Cody, again, champion of the year, Cody. I took out a Cody on my debut. I am Jacob Fatu. So again, that's what Jacob did when he came in. He came and beat up Cody Rhodes. So again, the wordplay is phenomenal. I appreciate this as a wrestling fan. I'm hoping that the people who watch this episode maybe will go and check out that battle. That's Big K versus Tay-Rock on RBE. It's on YouTube. It's free. You know, while you're at it, check out all the other stuff. You know, DNA, shout out DNA. He has a lot of wrestling bars in his raps. Shout out Marv One from Detroit. He's been known to drop some wrestling bars in his raps. So, you know, battle rap and pro wrestling are actually, matter of fact, Tay-Rock did an event. He was at an indie event not that long ago. I think it was after WrestleMania, him and Chess. They were like somebody's manager at a indie event.
Oh,
so
that's fire.
yeah. So, you know, maybe we'll see him and West Side Gun and them link up and do something one day. I could see that. You know what I mean?
The other thing I forgot about too is Tay-Rock and DNA, I believe too. They are pretty close with Trick Williams in NXT.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up actually, because they were at NXT. I think it was that same weekend, if I'm not mistaken. It might have still also been WrestleMania weekend, but they were with Trick like the whole weekend. There was a bunch of Instagram pictures and stuff, and then they were like sitting front row when Trick made his entrance, and Trick made sure to go up and acknowledge them on camera.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, commentary might have even said something.
I think they did. I'd have to go back and watch, but I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah.
And then just the last thing on the battle rap topic before we wrap up today. Calico, another guy from Detroit, he actually has a song called WWF, where he's basically calling out other battle rappers in the song, and he's basically saying, I don't have real beef with y'all, I just want to battle. This is basically WWF, you know, and that's the whole theme behind that record. So yeah, man, battle rap, the world of hip hop at large, but you know, specifically on this episode, battle rap, pro wrestling, very, very similar. If you're a fan of one, it would make sense that you're a fan of the other. If you haven't watched the other, you know, if you're a battle rap fan and you never watched wrestling, I highly suggest that you check it out because there's a lot of parallels and vice versa.
Yeah.
If you're a wrestling fan, you never watch battle rap, check out some battles. You know, if you like hip hop, you'll love it.
Yeah, you'll appreciate it for sure.
Hell yeah, man. Well, we're gonna wrap up today's Shoot Style Sessions. Steve will be back with us whenever he can be back with us, but you know, the Grand Boys, we're gonna hold it down. It's all good. Shout out to Steve. Make sure you follow him at @slobin on Instagram. Make sure that you follow me at Shane_ethos on everything that you can find that on. That's me.
And follow me at the
man.
ARG Life on everything that you can find me on.
And that's what it is. We'll catch you all next week. Peace.